Yes, everybody, welcome back to Stretford Paddock. My name is Stephen House. I'm here with Jay, I'm here with Adam, and I'm here with Joe, and unfortunately an absolute weapon behind the camera. But we are here for the end of season review. You've seen the manager, you've seen the overall one where we just talked very overally. Today we are talking our boot players, and we might even go to player of the year. I'm not asking Adam. I think it's obvious he's going with
Harry Maguire.
Right then, so John, I'm going to start with you. Let's talk about players because, I mean, where do we even begin? Should we begin at the back?
Let's start at the back.
Let's talk about goalkeeper and defenders.
Yeah.
What stood out? What's been a nightmare for you?
It's not been a great season for De Gea, has it?
Nope.
In the main, he's been, making decent saves here and there, but he's made, half a dozen to a dozen mistakes this season, which is not like him, or hadn't been like him for his whole career. It's not been a great season for David De Gea. You're sort of looking at, Dean Henderson coming over the shoulder of him as well. What is this sort of career span of De Gea left at United? And there's obviously varying opinions on that. Romero, again, does what he does, comes in, gets clean sheets in the cup matches. The defence has been a weird one. Obviously, we've got Wan-Bissaka in, who I think has been excellent for most of the season. He looked a bit leggy toward the end of the season, but I think a lot of them did.
Not every player.
Yeah, exactly.
Can we just, instead of saying he looked a bit leggy towards the end, can we just say,
let's just say
they all looked a bit leggy?
Looked leggy at the end of the season.
Did anyone not look leggy at the end of the season?
De Gea.
Anthony Marsh.
But yeah, Maguire I think is the big one, who's a bit divided opinion a little bit. I'm sure we'll hear different opinions on it. But for me, I think for the most part he's been excellent, and I actually think him being given the captain's armband coincided with an upturn in his form rather than him losing form. I think that again, last few games a bit leggy, but we'll give him all a bit of a break for that. I think generally he's improved the defence. We've got the most clean sheets in Europe. We've got I think the third best defence in the league. We've lost the second least in the league this season, which are all because of that massively improved defence. You mentioned the numbers before, something like 55 to 35 or something similar.
That was a different video.
18 less goals.
18 less goals conceded this season than last season.
The league.
If you've watched the other video, you'll know what that meant.
And if you haven't,
but he's clearly improved the defence, and I think he's improved Lindelof alongside him as well. And Lindelof, I think, he's been, much better in the air and much better generally. Again, are they world-class defenders? I don't know, but I think they've made our defence better than it was and better than it has been for a long time. And Luke Shaw's another one who, actually, if you're saying who hasn't been leggy, I think Luke Shaw's the only one whose whole season has just gone like that. It's gone up the whole time. I think he started at his worst.
But then by the time he could get tired, he was injured at the end.
For 3 games. But I think, after lockdown, I thought he was excellent for the 4 or 5 games.
So it wasn't.
Against Sheffield United, he was excellent. Against Aston Villa, he was excellent. Against Bournemouth, he was excellent.
It was the initial games post-lockdown where he was still doing the most frustrating stuff.
Yeah, Tottenham. Spurs.
And then it was after that we started seeing him to actually come alive in the final third. But he wasn't excellent throughout. That's a myth.
No, but he's saying he had an upward trajectory.
I think he's been getting better throughout, is what I'm saying. I think he started quite poorly, actually. And then he made his way into the centre-back position where he was a bit better, and I think that carried on up, is what I'm saying.
I do think the best one in the defence has been Aaron Wan-Bissaka.
Yeah,
Easily.
But I think even he probably tailed off towards the back end of the season. How much of that was fatigue? How much of that was just him being out of form? As for Harry Maguire and Victor Lindelof, look, Harry Maguire's first season here, I think he's improved Manchester United's defence. I think he improved as a player when he got the armband. I agree with that, because he started off, he didn't look too comfortable at Manchester United.
I thought he was just ordinary. I didn't think he was good. I didn't think he was bad. He was just...
And then after that, he got the armband. He seemed to pick things up. Post-lockdown, I haven't been the most impressed with him. There was a few games earlier on where he was bringing the ball out of defence and picking some excellent cross-field passes. But we haven't seen that enough. And most of the passing out from the back hasn't been good enough. But look, again, he's not the only one, that is going to be feeling tired and fatigued and played loads of games in a short space of time. And you've also got to understand, it's like starting a season without having a pre-season. These boys are all in the middle of kind of like a pre-season kind of routine, like playing friendlies and all that. You all seen at the end of a pre-season, the last pre-season game is the worst one usually because people have gone out, and that's how we've been looking at the moment. So hopefully you can get rid of that. Hopefully we can get more comfortable in the defence. I think Lindelof's been better than Maguire at times. And Maguire's been better than Lindelof at times, but you still feel like you need a partner for Maguire. And that's maybe because he's got the armband, which is the only thing that I'd say probably too soon. But then again, who is the other alternative? I don't think there is one. So I think Maguire has done well, but the price tag, you expect an elite defender, and we haven't got that yet. We need him to still pick it up to become that.
Jay, midfield.
Midfield. It's all been about Bruno, really, hasn't it? I know he didn't come in until January, but
Well, let's go back
It's
to the
just
start of the season.
sort
Then.
of,
Let's talk at the start of the
do we
season.
have
We
to?
saw Pereira, we saw McTominay, we saw Fredge.
to be fair, a bit harsh on. I was probably being a bit harsh on Fred there because he's had a good season. He has, and people like dismiss that now because
I mean, again, I think that only really picked up around December.
From January, McTominay, Fred, Bruno.
yeah.
That was the midfield.
But I thought,
We've had
especially
2-3
from the
midfields
sort of,
this season.
the expectation of Fred, the joy was still out on him. I thought he was superb at the Etihad in the league. He's had some really good performances, and overall, I think he's had a good season. And you were looking at him thinking, is he going to be at the club much longer? Is he good enough? And I think he's silenced a lot of his critics. He's still got some way to go. He's not. I don't think you look at Fred and go, he's the answer to everything. But in terms of at least a squad player, definitely. But Bruno was just a breath of fresh air. And the main thing with Bruno as well, not the main thing, but towards the end of the season, after the break, was the fact that Paul Pogba comes back into that midfield, and you've got two of the best midfielders on the planet in your midfield.
We
You've
went
got
from having the worst midfield in the top 6 to
What, do you not include
possibly
Matic
one of
in
the
that?
best on paper.
Yeah, well, Matic on his day is as good as anyone in that defensive midfield on his day.
Fresh Matic
Yeah, he
was
is.
top.
You can't ask for much more than what he was doing when he came
Knackered
back from.
Matic.
Yeah, and you talk about Leggett, it caught up with him, but you'd expect that. He's 31. I know that's still young, but
I'm 31.
It's
Come
like
on,
10
man.
years
I know.
You're past it.
People talk about Matic like he's 30. You were saying it the other day,
know,
like
yeah.
he's
I'm
30.
not saying he's
It's the same
31.
with
You
Rooney
expect
though,
him to
wasn't it?
catch up with you if
Rooney
you're
at
playing
31
like
wasn't
5
Ronaldo
games
at
in a week or
31.
whatever, or
People
3
age at
games.
different.
And also, you have to comment on what you're seeing, and he clearly declined. And what else are you going to put it down to? Just he didn't give a shit anymore.
Maybe.
You almost hope it's age.
Stop caring.
Well, you know what I mean.
37.
There seemed to be a little thing between him and Ollie, and the fact that Ollie got a lot of people round and onside. I think Ollie's done that with some of these players.
Actually,
He's
yeah,
made them.
Matic was commenting stuff on Instagram.
Yeah.
Do you know what though? When the 4-0 against Everton last season, when he said some of these players won't be here next season, everyone thought that's got to be Matic because he had a stinker that day.
I thought
Everyone
Lukaku
thought,
in yours.
well,
Lukaku
yeah, you
in
can throw
yours, I
Lukaku
thought.
in there as well, but everyone thought Matic is gone.
What?
And even in like
Club captain.
even in January, you thought, oh, he's gone. But I remember the League Cup here, the semi-final. What was it? 3-1 down at half time, and Matic
3-0.
came
Do we
down.
win the
Marcus
second
got
half?
a goal late in the first half on it, or was it the second? I'm sure it was late in the first
I think
half.
we won the 3/4 of that
Yeah,
game, so we
anyway,
should have gone through.
Yeah, when's the parade?
To be fair, that game, actually, I need to talk about that game because that game.
Well,
blew
Matic, that's
my
what I'm trying to
mind.
get to.
What game?
It was actually, no, actually,
Let him make his point about Matic.
it was Phil Jones. Phil Jones getting pressed and
Oh, when they were passing out from the back.
God, that was
Phil
horrible.
Jones and
honestly,
That was
I was
horrible.
like, this is
But if you let me
mind-boggling.
speak, the point I was getting to.
He's still going about Matic.
The man, you might
Talk
changed
about
that
players.
game. He changed that game, and he's had a good season.
Yeah.
That was my answer to your question, whatever the fucking
I think the
question was.
thing with Matic is he's a natural in that role.
Yes.
McTominay is not a natural in that role. They're all
Fred's not.
eights almost,
Fred-
like
Fred
they all
thinks
want
he's
to
an
do
attacking
extra things.
midfielder.
Yeah, and he probably is, but I think McTominay's probably got the best attributes to play where Matic plays, but he hasn't. I don't think he's got a brain. That's not. I don't mean he's clueless. I mean in the terms of a footballing
Discipline.
brain. I don't think he's got it, having the discipline there. Maybe Matic can teach him a few things, but I still think we need to sign someone in that
I
position.
don't
We'll
think
get there later.
either Fred or McTominay are world-class number 8s, and if they're not, then they have to fit the role.
Well, we've
that
got
fits the
two
system.
world-class
Well, we have,
midfielders.
and you see them in comparison to them, and they're not the same calibre, are they, in terms of creating and defending? So they have to do the job that suits them best.
But
But
if you
Matic
had-
is the best at that.
If you had Fredge, McTominay, and one other, whether that was Pereira, whether that was Lingard, whether that was Mata, because we've got so, or even if it was, let's progress a little bit and say it's Grealish. If that's your backup 3,
Yeah.
and your main 3 is Matic, Pogba, Bruno,
Well, that's the thing. I'm not
pretty good
having
squad.
a go at them, but all I'm saying is you compare them to, Fred was having a great season, and even to the point where we looked during a lockdown at a sort of a team of the season so far, or player of the season so far, and Fred was getting nominations on Twitter, and there was a real high point of Fred where he was being talked about as one of the best players of the season. But again, you see him in comparison to Bruno, and it's not a knock on Fred or McTominay because I think they're both excellent players who have got a massive part in the squad, and they'll play 30 games each in most seasons. But neither of them are that player. But yeah, if that's your backup midfield, or they come in for rotation and Grealish and Fred and McTominay, excellent.
right?
Front line.
It is.
Do I have to ask him?
It is excellent.
Just ask him about Rashford
We
and
haven't
Greenwood
talked
and
about the
James.
front
So
line.
Rashford, Greenwood, James. What do you
Talk
think of
about
them?
specifically those 3
I
players.
thought Daniel
over
James
those
started
3
the
players.
season well, and he,
Especially with the
Back end of the
his
season.
father, that was
Yeah,
a
it was-
brilliant.
Yeah, let's not
Everything
forget
he had
that.
to cope with that, he handled that fantastically.
yeah, that goes without saying. And I think he showed that he could be a quality squad member, but I also think he showed his limitations. as well. And it showed you how much we do need to improve, how much we're crying out for that natural right winger. Because while I think Daniel James is great when teams push out and there's loads of space in behind, against teams here at home, I don't think Daniel James is the right player week in, week out. But an excellent addition to the squad, especially at the price that you bought him for. I think it's a snip and it was a no-brainer. As for the rest of the front three, I think Rashford is improvement. I said it at the start of the season. This is the season for Martial and Rashford. 06-07, Rooney, Ronaldo now. They never won the league or anything like that. But there seemed to be that penny dropping moment for both of them. Marcus Rashford came out the blocks like there was no tomorrow at the start of the season. He had tunnel vision. He was scoring goals. You could see he was working on his free kicks. He was working on his shooting technique, his passing technique, everything. And you've kind of seen two players in Marcus Rashford. You've got the Marcus Rashford when he needed to get all the goals before the lockdown and all that, and you've had the Marcus Rashford now who's dropping deep, sometimes picking the passes, trying to create. And I'm liking what we're seeing from Marcus Rashford. He's become a man. Anthony Martial, he's become a man. I think that's the perfect way to put it for him, because the goals that he scores, how many times have we seen him score them? Cut in, shoot into the top corner, beat a defender, score. We've seen him do that. His finishing ability, no one's questioned it. It's whether he could play in that number 9 role and do all the dirty work that we wanted him to do. And I think as the season's gone on, like you said with Luke Shaw's trajectory, I think Martial's has been better. And I know we'll talk about Player of the Year nominees, but that's why he's mine, because his trajectory has gone up, 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 up. When he's not been in the team, we've missed him. 2 months out, we missed him. Rashford missed him. Everyone missed him. And when he's been here, big games, scored the crucial goals. You think about Man City and all these games, he's scoring goals, he's performing. And he's delivering with the stats. 22 goals, got loads of assists, wearing that number 9 shirt like he belongs in it. And that's what we needed to see, because we didn't want to get to this summer and we were thinking about, we need a left winger. We need a striker, because Rashford and Martial ain't doing it at the moment. And the fact that Ollie's come in and said, you're my boy, you're playing, it's made the world of difference to those two
He
players.
did that, but he did also try and sign Erling Haaland.
Something I want to mention there, talking about other strikers, is Igalo as well, who you haven't mentioned, obviously not for any reason.
Why are you not mentioning Igalo?
No, I'm not.
Yeah, why not?
So what have we got against him?
But I think there's a case to be made that Martial has picked a bit of that up from Igalo, because he's been with Lukaku, who actually isn't that sort of player. He isn't a back to the defender who's, despite how big and strong he is, doesn't use his strength. He isn't a great hold-up player, Lukaku. I think Igalo is the first person that Martial's been in and around that he can really sort of go, look at that, look, he can scrap him for those balls and pushing players out of the way in this positioning. I don't think it's a coincidence that the increase in Martial's sort of output and expertise as a number 9 has coincided with Igalo coming in.
Was it Rashford's goal against Southampton where he had the defenders held them back
and passed the ball out to the side?
Perfect example of that.
Right, we have to wrap this up because we're going to drown. But I'm just going to ask for a one-word answer, please. And we'll get into this, I'm sure, later this week. Player of the Year.
We'll do a proper nominees video.
Yeah,
but
one word answer. No, that's 2.
Two words.
That's the name, Marshall, sorry.
Player of the Year.
Bruno.
Rashford. Sanchez.
Young.
Die. I think Bruno. I think Bruno.
That means
I
we
don't
win.
think it,
That
I
means
don't think January
two
signing
votes,
should be
1-1.
allowed.
Well, it is if he's that good.
Okay, when Marshall, that's
Shut up! One word!
He's
Right,
angry.
right.
I know.
Here's one then. Marshall then. Listen to this.
Back on me.
absolutely
Back on me.
swimming.
Right. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let me know your player of the year in the comments. We're going to be doing a video on it.
all I'm saying.
some
When he
point.
got 10
Shut
goals
up.
to the assist by January, no one said he was player of the year.
Thank you guys for tuning in. Make
all
sure
I'm
to
saying.
subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.